America's best days are yet to come. That's because conservatives like you know and live the values our great country was built on. The Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard in the D.C. swamp each day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You know, it's okay to smile today, folks. It really is. It's a good day to smile. The Trump peace plan has two phases. Phase one is supposed to be implemented now and through Monday, Tuesday, in which the Israelis end their siege on the city of Gaza, which they have surrounded and are poised to destroy Hamas once and for all, and move to an intermediary line where they still are in Gaza, covering 52% of the territory, and simultaneously, in exchange for all the hostages. 48 of them. 20 who are supposed to be alive. Now, before I go on, let's stop right there. What kind of subhuman cockroaches take hostages like this, treat them like this, use them as bargaining chips? It's cockroaches who are Islamists, throwbacks to the 7th century, who hold belief systems in which the more people you kill, the more horrible the death, preferably debauchery and torture and rape as you're murdering them, preferably in front of their loved ones, burn them alive, decapitate them, and all the rest, the most horrible things you can think of. They believe that that's how they serve God and that's how they'll go to heaven. If you don't have an understanding of who these people are and what drives them, and unfortunately most of the people in the West do not, then you think that, well, what's the big deal? You can make a deal with these people. Doesn't work that way. Nonetheless, on phase one in the Trump peace plan, it's the release of the hostages. The Israelis pull back. And there's to be a release of nearly 2,000 terrorists and criminals in Israeli prisons, including 250 of whom are the worst kind of terrorists, and some subset of that who are mass murderers. Of course, we would never do this. But that's what the Israelis have agreed to do. Phase 2 is very interesting, and I'm very curious to see how this is supposed to work. Phase 2, the question I have is what happens to Hamas? Hamas is supposed to be disarmed, I guess dispersed. Of course, that doesn't prevent them from meeting up later and arming up later, something that I think is being missed, but nonetheless, disarmed and removed from Gaza. Now, according to reports, and who knows how accurate they are, this is an area of resistance for the terrorists. We shall see how this works out. Phase 2 will be more interesting. Now, keep something else in mind. At least as the agreement was written, even though there have been apparently some changes. If Phase 2 isn't executed, all bets are off. Now, this is the genius, actually, of the Trump plan. The hostages get out under Phase 1. Now, Phase 2 has all these particulars, these details, many of which we don't know yet, that I guess they're trying to work out, involving the governance there, involving Hamas, the disarming of Hamas, the demilitarization of Gaza, all these things. And so Phase 2 will be much more complicated, won't it? And this is what we will keep our eye on. Now, the fact of the matter is there's not another person who could have even brought the situation there to this point. There's simply not another. Trump is historic, and he is iconic. And as you will learn if you watch Saturday's Life, Liberty, and Levin from the Israeli ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Leiter, my interview of him is really quite remarkable. We also have Ron Johnson all about this FBI monitoring Republican senators and House members. But you're going to hear the ambassador who was there at the table through it all, and still is, that the pressure was not placed on Israel, despite the reports in Axios by the self-hating Israeli Ravid, and other reports and other equally unreliable media outlets, so-called. The pressure was on Hamas. And he will reveal, for the first time, so I'll reveal it to you, that your president, my president, our president, told Qatar, told Turkey, told Egypt, but particularly Qatar and Turkey. You have the Hamas leadership in your countries. Now, you either force them, pressure them to accept this agreement, or you remove them. You never heard that before, did you, Mr. President? Excuse me, Mr. Producer? You didn't hear that before. Now, that's the Donald Trump we know, man. It really is. Either you tell them to get this done and you force them, or remove them, release them. That was the pressure. That's not what Axios and Ravin reported. That's not what the other outlets reported, and yet that's what happened. Eyewitness account by the ambassador to the United States from Israel. And that's what we would expect from our president, because that's the kind of man he is. I'm going to spend some time, a little bit tonight. We've got a lot to cover. A lot on Saturday night on Life, Liberty, and Levin. Getting into the details. How do we get to this point? And when we mean this point, what do we mean? And just to give it a summary, we got to this point for two reasons. Benjamin Netanyahu, the greatest prime minister in the history of Israel, the longest-serving prime minister in the history of Israel, decided he was going to defeat Hamas. And that included the need to defeat Hezbollah in Iran. Why? Because you might recall Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran actually were planning a simultaneous attack from the south, the north, and the east against the country of Israel. Hamas jumped the gun. But Hezbollah was poised with 180,000 long and mid missiles. Remember all that? And of course, Iran was poised with 3,000 ballistic missiles, we would later learn. Israel had to do urban fighting, door to door, street to street, like our Marines had to do in Iraq. And yet, they were forced to feed the citizenry of the enemy and their own faith prevented them from obliterating Gaza over a period of weeks, the way we, and I believe rightly so, obliterated city after city in Europe and the Far East during World War II. Little good did it do for Israel, given the Western media and Western academia, given the enemy within, as they were accused of something they exactly chose not to do. Starving the Gazans when they were feeding them. Hamas was starving them. And genocide when they were giving notice to the citizenry there to get out of the way. Israel won no points for what it did, but it lost many more IDF soldiers as a result. They defeated Hezbollah for all intents and purposes, destroyed their entire leadership. Destroyed their generals, basically their lieutenants in the militia, with the beepers and the iPhones. They blew out much of Hamas's leadership. They blew out much of Iran's leadership. In fact, they defeated Iran in 12 days. And we came in and blew out their nuclear sites, crucially important. So Israel, fighting an urban war in Gaza, blowing out Hezbollah, for all intents and purposes, in Lebanon, thereby covering its southern and northern flanks, and defeating Iran in 12 days, blowing out their ground-to-air missiles, their Soviet defense systems, Russian defense systems, taking out much of their leadership, and then surrounding Hamas. So there'd be no peace talks, but for the fact that the Israeli military was able to do what the Israeli military did. And when you think about it, it's amazing. A nation of 9 million, surrounded by hundreds of millions. Nation the size of New Jersey, surrounded by massive Arab countries. And look what they were able to accomplish. That's number one. Number two, the election of Donald Trump. Crucial. Joe Biden had been funding Iran. Joe Biden helped Iran fund its nuclear program by lifting sanctions directly and indirectly, and by direct payments to Iran, hoping to buy them off. We also had individuals within our own government who were back channeling to Iran, individuals who still have not been held to account. You had Blinken, you had Sullivan, you had Harris, and of course Biden. It was a disaster. Donald Trump's elected president, the best friend the state of Israel's ever had in the Oval Office. He reverses every single Biden policy, including the continuation of the sale of ammunition and weapons to Israel. His statements, backed up by muscle, that he wanted those hostages out of there, that Iran was not going to get a nuclear weapon. Presidents had said that before. Trump meant it. particularly when President Trump ordered the strikes on the nuclear sites. That sent a message throughout the Arab world, the Muslim world, the entire world. That sent a message. Donald Trump was opposed by the Democrats. He was opposed by our media. He was opposed by the UN. He was opposed by Europe. He was opposed by the Neanderthal Jew-hating isolationists, the self-appointed fake MAGA podcasters. And he did it anyway. And then that speech at the United Nations, where he collectively, we looked at the world collectively, every leader of the world. He denounced the institution as failing to even pursue peace. He denounced the institution as anti-Semitic. He denounced many of its member states of undermining basic human principles and civil liberties, destroying their own countries with open borders, in a tour de force like we've never seen before. And in the Arab world, he gave them an opportunity, diplomatic and economic, to work closer with our country to benefit them and us. More when I return.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
The one thing I would say is obviously the President of the United States, a New York real estate billionaire, one of the most famous New Yorkers in the world, has a lot of interaction with a lot of people who are very pro-Israel. I think that was an important set of experiences and life experiences that he brought to the table. He also, of course, knew one of the most famous Palestinians in the world, Chuck Schumer. And I think without that background of knowledge, it would have been impossible to get us to this point.
That is a great line, J.D. Vance. Absolutely fantastic. Very funny. By the way, I want to thank Fox and Friends, and what a wonderful group of hosts they have. Their chemistry is fantastic. I want to thank Dana Perino and Bill Hemmer. I was invited on their programs this morning, but I was unable to come on because I'm preparing my weekend shows. I want to thank Martha McCullum. I was able to do that this afternoon. I want to thank her. And tonight, 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be on Hannity. So hope we catch you there. I will be on Hannity. Again, 9:20 p.m. Eastern. But for you, I'm here right now. I'll be right back. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Mark Levin, America's real influencer. Dial in 877-381-3811.
While the president is doing all these things, the unthinkable, the unimaginable in many instances, what are the Democrats doing? Destroying our country. That's right. Lying about health care. They're the ones responsible for Obamacare. If Obamacare is a loser, it's because they put it in place. There wasn't a single Republican that voted for that. Not one. None. It's lousy coverage, extremely expensive. So they're giving illegal aliens Medicaid, which is great coverage, extremely expensive at your expense. And so they're trying to change the subject and so forth and so on. In fact, Chuck Schumer, I think, said the longer this goes on, the better, didn't he, Mr. Producer? The longer this goes on, the better. The more the people hurt, he says, the better it is. But I don't want to jump the gun, as they say. Here's my appearance on Martha McCullum on Fox this afternoon. Let's go to cut 9, Mr. Producer. Go.
Obviously, we are watching history unfold on so many levels in the Middle East right now. Your reaction to where this stands as we wait for Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to begin expected meetings with Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem?
Well, thank you, Martha. You know, there's a genius to this with these different phases, phase 1 and 2. In phase 1, the release of the hostages, and unfortunately, the release of a lot of these deadly prisoners. But phase 2 is going to be the key, as some of the people have mentioned earlier on the network. What happens to Hamas here? What exactly is going to happen with Hamas? We don't know. And that's very, very important. So I think phase 2 is where some of the dirty work has to be figured out. I'm guessing they're meeting with the prime minister, not just to have a donut, but to try and figure that out with him and so forth. But the genius of this was the way they carved it out. The hostages come out first. That's very, very important, obviously, to us, to the Israeli people, and so forth. Now the question is, how do you secure Israel? How do you prevent Hamas from doing what it did again? How do you ensure that there's demilitarization of Gaza? So it is an extensive process. Again, I think it was brilliantly determined on these phases and so forth. And I would say this. This didn't just happen. The President of the United States had to bring together these Arab countries, and people don't understand. All these Arab countries don't think the same. They don't agree the same. These are tribal. Some of them hate each other's guts. Some of them have been to war with each other. Some of them tried to overthrow each other. So that was a marvelous accomplishment. And in addition to that, the Israelis, if the Israelis hadn't defeated Hezbollah, hadn't defeated Iran with the president bombing out those nuclear sites, putting the Houthis in their place, even though now and then they fire off a missile, and today have the city of Gaza surrounded, ready to destroy them, I don't know that we'd be here today. That's a point I wanted to make. And the other point I wanted to make, boy, does an election make a difference. You have Donald Trump, who stood with Israel 100%. You have Donald Trump, who prevented this arms embargo that the Biden regime was involved in. You had Donald Trump, who shut off the money to Iran when the Biden regime was funding their military directly and indirectly. You had Donald Trump had made it clear those hostages are coming out. You're not going to have nuclear weapons. And he meant what he said, and he did what he wanted to do, what he said he would do against, people in our own country, the Democrats, the media, the isolations, and so forth. This is a great leader, Donald Trump. And for Israel, Netanyahu, who has been a great, great leader and military leader, because let's keep something in mind. Hamas was supposed to be one of the attacks against Israel. They were going to be attacked in the north, the south, and the east. Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran. In this tiny country of 9 million people, surrounded. basically defeated Hezbollah, defeated Iran in 12 days, and has Hamas surrounded in urban warfare like we had to fight in Iraq. And so I don't think our media gives enough credit to Benjamin Netanyahu as they try to destroy him. I don't think anybody gives Donald Trump enough credit. He deserves it. People talk about a Nobel Peace Prize. Do you know, I think it was 2019, do you know, Martha, that this time in 2019, Barack Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize? Do you know what he got it for? I don't know what he got it for, because he found the men's room in the Oval Office. I don't know what he got the Nobel Peace Prize for.
He hadn't had time to do too much. Just by getting elected, he got a Nobel Peace Prize, essentially, and that prize will be announced tomorrow. I think there are obviously a lot of people who think that President Trump should be getting it based on the really incredible, unprecedented nature of the shift in the Middle East. And as you're so right, Mark, you see these Arab nations who have differences coming together. You see Iran isolated to the point that we have not seen in my lifetime. And Hamas, basically had to give in to this deal because they don't have anyone supporting them at this point. They're extremely isolated, extremely decimated militarily. And I think that, this was the least worst choice for them at this time. I just want to put one quick thing up here, which is this Quinnipiac polling. And I think you already touched on what I think your answer is going to be about why this is. But when you look back at August of 2025, November 2023, do your sympathies lie more with Israelis or Palestinians? This is a Quinnipiac poll. And back in November of 2023, Americans said plus 30 to the Israeli sympathies support side. August of 2025, it moved dramatically. Palestinians plus 1. What's your thought on that, Mark, before I let you go?
Well, it's frightening. Propaganda works. We have money coming into our country, into our schools and universities, brainwashing our children. Keep in mind the hate for our country and our founding is growing at the college level and the university level and throughout the country as well. This is what happens when the truth doesn't get out. And still the truth isn't getting out about what's taken place here, that what Israel's had to do and the way that they've done it. So far, the enemy, the terrorists, have won the propaganda war. It's not a PR issue with Israel. Israel doesn't control the American media. It doesn't control the Democrat Party. It doesn't control the Neanderthal isolationists in my party. It's a tiny country that doesn't have anything like the money that these other countries have. They pour into our country to influence what's taking place. And so that's my take on that. It's horrific.
I have to say something. There are cheap shots and attacks from time to time on the Fox News channel. Now, many of you are enthusiastic viewers, audience of the Fox News channel. Fox has massive cable audiences. It outperforms MSNBC, CNN hugely combined. There are fantastic people on Fox. I mean, just look at the Fox and Friends in the morning with Lawrence and Ainsley and Brian. Fantastic people. I look at the show that follows. Dana Perino, I've come to really like her. And Bill Hemmer's fantastic. And Sandra Smith and John Roberts, they are terrific. And the chemistry is unbelievable with all these people. And the shows in between. When I was talking about my book and I would go to the shows, and they're just good people, solid people. And as you move throughout the day, I'm talking about Harris Faulkner and her group and the others. If I don't mention everybody, I don't have time to, but they know who I mean. You look at the primetime lineup, same thing. And look at the weekend lineup. So the people who trash Fox tend to be disgruntled former employees who've been blown out of there for misbehavior, for bizarre conduct, for 100 other reasons. Some of them are reprobates. That's it. I just wanted to point that out. because I've so many positive experiences with so many people there. And again, I want to thank virtually every show there inviting me on during the course of the week to discuss this and other things, by the way, the FBI and its monitoring of Republicans. And we're going to discuss that Saturday night, too, with Ron Johnson at some length. As you know, I worked at the Justice Department. I was a chief of staff. I dig into what happened here. And actually, Ron Johnson, Senator Johnson, is asking if I personally can help him and the committee to come up with certain ways of pursuing information and gathering it. And I said, you better believe, more than happy to do it. More than happy to do it. And I will do it. But I just wanted to point that out, too. Okay, President Trump. Cut one, go.
As you know, last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be, but we are getting the hostages back on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, and that'll be a day of joy. I'm going to try and make a trip over. We're going to try and get over there, and we're working on the timing, the exact timing. We're going to go to Egypt, where we'll have a signing, an additional signing. We've already had a signing representing me, but we're going to have an official signing. And the amazing thing is all of the countries over there, from Qatar to Saudi Arabia to UAE to all of them, I mean, the rich ones, the less than rich ones, they've all come together, something which is amazing, actually. They've all come together for this, and they're really probably the best relationships they've ever had. So it's been really something incredible that nobody thought it was possible to get it done.
Mm-hmm. I think Israel's one of the countries, no, Mr. Producer? We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. John Fetterman is a good man. He's a good man. Now, he's voting to keep the quote-unquote government shut. That's a mistake. But he's very supportive on many other fronts. Here's what he had to say on Fox. Cut 8, go.
Do you think the president deserves a Nobel Peace Prize?
Well, I mean, if this sticks, I think the whole point of having a Nobel Peace Prize is for ending wars and promoting peace. And I'm going to make a direct appeal to the president. You know, I hope he chooses to provide the tomahawks to the Ukrainians, too, and give them the tools that they need to push back against Russia. And if he brings the Ukrainian war to its end, I'll be the Democrat leading the committee for his Nobel Prize Peace for ending both of these terrible wars.
Here's a little montage of Democrats in the media actually praising the president's Gaza peace deal. Cut 6, go.
All credit to President Trump and his, as you say, unconventional team.
Well, Robin, there's no question that if this goes as planned, if we see those remaining hostages freed and Israel begin its withdrawal, it is a remarkable achievement, and President Trump most certainly deserves credit for his role. He has done this through diplomacy, pressure, and the sheer force of his personality and persistence.
Well, also military victory. Let's be honest. She's getting a little... Her liberal, go ahead.
Very welcome news. Finally, the hostages are going to come home.
This guy's an Islamist kiss ass, this Ro Khanna. He's a fraud and a phony and a two-face. Go ahead.
Very positive step in the right direction.
Joe Biden could never do that. And Donald Trump was able to do it. Did it at the decisive moment when he said, essentially, this.
By the way, don't they all sound very dour, Mr. Producer? Oh, my God, are we going to praise this guy? And Joe Biden couldn't do it. Trump did it. Then we have Elizabeth, whatever her name, New York Slimes, and go ahead.
Israelis said to me that the only person who can resolve this war is Donald Trump. And these are not all Israelis who are big fans of Donald Trump.
Yeah, I just need to underscore what an enormous moment this is for so many people in this region.
That's CNN. Basically, these are all the media outlets and Lilliputians who were giving voice to Hamas propaganda. That's right. They contributed nothing to this day. Nothing. Zero. Ambassador Mike Huckabee on Fox and Friends, Cut 7, go.
How are you guys able to get this across the finish line?
Well, let's give credit where credit is due. There were a lot of people at the embassy that did a lot of just groundwork, but the real key is President Trump. He's the one that made this happen. Certainly envoys Witkoff and Jared Kushner were a very big part of sealing the deal, bringing it together. But this would never have happened without the leadership of President Trump. He brought people together that no one thought would ever sit together, talk, and come to an agreement. And it's really a remarkable day. And I'll tell you, there is a great sigh of relief being heaved throughout Israel today, because this is a day that everyone here has been praying to happen for 2 solid years.
Mm-hmm. What will happen with Hamas? This we need to know. We will know very shortly. That's part of phase 2. What will happen with Hamas? Guess who's coming on the program at the top of the next hour, America? We haven't had this gentleman on the program for several years. Lindsey Graham. Lindsey has been outstanding on this, which is why he's hated by the Neanderthal Jew-hating podcasters. Of course, anybody who's not for Hamas, who's not an anti-Semite, who's not an anti-American isolationist is hated by these bastards. And so I am noticing that these Neanderthals are being relegated to a smaller and smaller circle, a smaller and smaller cabal, that people find them grotesque and horrendous, like a car accident, but every now and then they have to look nonetheless. We'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. One of President Trump's favorite golfing buddies, and I believe Senator Graham and the President keep in touch frequently. Senator Graham, how are you, sir?
Good, Mark. Thanks for having me.
All right. What do you think of this deal? You're not going to get a better question than that.
To it. Yeah, no, that's a good question, and I'll give you the best answer. I talked to him this morning. I think only Trump could have gotten the Arabs involved at the level they have to end this. For 50 years, the Arabs would talk about the Palestinians, the poor Palestinians, and not do anything to help them. So Trump changed involvement there. I'm glad the hostage is coming home. I told President Trump that's something to be proud of. But peace is beyond releasing hostages.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have a discussion soon as to whether or not phase 2 works. Will Hamas disarm? Will people take that are not homicidal maniac? Has Hamas been dealt out of the future of the Palestinians? What are you going to do about Hezbollah, their terrorist organization in Lebanon with American blood on its hands? What are we going to do to make sure Iran can't regenerate? And finally, the Houthis. When you deal with all that, then maybe we'll have peace.
You know, you make a great point. If we're going to talk about peace in the Middle East and the entire region, these are very, very important questions that you're asking. And phase 2 is what you're really focusing in on. And I've been asking the question, too. So what exactly is going to happen with Hamas? They're going to be disarmed. Okay, they're going to go somewhere else and get rearmed. I mean, what? Do you have any idea what's going to happen yet? I don't know.
I really don't, but I know this, that there's nothing mentioned about Hezbollah. And Hezbollah is housed in Lebanon for the most part. They've been there for decades. They're tied to Iran. They're Shiites, Hamas, or Sunnis. Without Iran, neither of these groups would exist. They still have heavy weapons in Lebanon. They fired a bunch of rockets into Israel, and there have been 2 wars fought over Lebanon by Israelis. So you can't talk about peace in the Middle East until you deal with the largest proxy of Iran, Hezbollah, with more American blood on its hands than any other group. 241 Marines were killed at the end of the runway in Beirut in 1983. When Reagan put them there, Hamas blew them up. So I want to know what the game plan is to disarm Hezbollah. Then you got the Houthis who just attacked a ship yesterday and killed a sailor. Then what's the plan to make sure Iran can't regenerate? Now, all of this can be done. Trump deserves enormous credit by getting the region together and the world to release these hostages. Well done, Mr. President. No better friend of Israel than President Trump. Having said that, I don't want to oversell. I don't want to say things that don't bear out. I think we can have peace in the Middle East. Hezbollah is still around. Not if the Houthis are still around, and not if Iran comes.
You're coming in and out, unfortunately. Can we fix that, Mr. Producer? You want to call the senator? Okay. Let's go ahead and do that, please. I'm very sympathetic to the points that Senator Graham is mentioning, as a matter of fact. So, you know, we don't want to be in the same place 2-3 years from now. I think Hezbollah is exactly where we need them to finish that off. Hezbollah is exactly where we need them to finish that off. I think Iran's exactly where we need them. And we'll see what happens with Hamas. It'll be interesting to also see how these Arab countries react to that. You know, Lebanon, the Lebanese people and the Lebanese government want to get rid of Hezbollah. They want to get rid of them. And they've been defying Hezbollah more and more and more since Hezbollah has been so severely damaged. And the people of Iran would love nothing more. Now, when I talk this way, we get the head cases, the Neanderthals, the hate America fake MAGA crowd going on about, what is it that, pardon me, Bannon had to say something about this Israeli effort to, like, control the whole region. He's a sick man. He's a con artist. He is a felon by his own admission, who ripped off little old ladies claiming he was going to build a wall. That's him. Then we have Gates. I think they finally gave him a belt so he keeps his pants on. Then we have Qatar. The name says it all. That guy wakes up every day trying to figure out why to hate the Jews. And then we have their sympathizers, that cabal. They have absolutely no influence on MAGA. MAGA supports the president. They support what the president has done. But the question is, what happens once the hostages are released, and what happens in this phase 2? Okay. Lindsey Graham, are you back?
I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. So this phase 2, did you raise this with the president? Because it's not even clear that phase 2 involves Hezbollah and these other elements that you talk about. What's that?
And I mentioned to him today, and he said today when asked about Lebanon, we got a great ambassador, Michelle, and he's a great ambassador, friend of the president, very successful businessman from Lebanon. And President Trump said they're part of the puzzle. So let's talk about peace. What are the forces that are antagonistic to peace? Lebanon, Hezbollah, attached to Iran, more American blood on its hands than Hamas by a lot. The Houthis, inconsistent with peace. A regenerated Iran, an Ayatollah who's a religious Nazi, inconsistent with peace. Hamas going down and being eliminated is a giant step forward. The hostages coming out is something to be celebrated and really well done, Mr. President. But you and I know the region fairly well, and I don't want to mislead people in South Carolina. We need a plan to disarm Hezbollah in Lebanon. The Lebanese government, Mark, for the first time in decades, has called for the disarmament of Hezbollah, turned their heavy weapons over to the Lebanese army. That would be the only entity in Lebanon with heavy weapons. If they do that, diplomatically, wonderful. If they don't, we need a plan to disarm Hezbollah by force, because if you do a deal in the Mideast for peace, Hezbollah will blow it up literally like they did in 1983. So we got a lot of work to do, but this is a giant moment, getting the hostages out, getting the region to work together. But I cannot tell people on your radio program here, you'll ever have peace until you deal with Hezbollah and make sure Iran can't regenerate.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like Iran is trying to regenerate, doesn't it?
Well, why do they exist? You know, if you're sitting across somebody and you're trying to do a deal, the first question you have to ask, is there anything I can give you so you will not kill me down the road? And if the answer is no, don't do the deal. Iran is organized around religious principles, the regime, maybe not the people. Their religious doctrine is a theocracy, calls for the purification of Islam, submitting Sunni Islam to Shia Islam, controlling the holy sites in Saudi Arabia, destroying the one and only Jewish state, and driving us, the infidels, out of the region. Now, that's not what I say, that's what they say. Iran writes on their missiles, death to Israel, death to America. If you don't deal with their capability to regenerate, you will never have peace.
So why is it that somebody like you, who basically is reflecting what the enemy is saying and what they want to do, why is it that somebody like you, Lindsey Graham, is called a warmonger when you're trying to warn people about the warmongers?
Well, you're in that camp a lot. I'm trying to learn from history.
Yep.
You know, if Hitler writes a book, I want to kill all the Jews, and people say, no, he really doesn't mean that. All he wants is German-speaking territory, and 50 million people later, you should have listened. If we would have understood Hitler better and not written off what he was saying because we didn't want to believe it. After World War I, Mark, nobody wanted World War II, so they tried to avoid dealing with evil. They tried to ignore it. They tried to rationalize it. Iran, under the Ayatollah's leadership since 1979, is a fanatical, religious Nazi regime dedicated to rearranging Islam, destroying the Jews in Israel, and coming after us. And they just don't talk about it. They actually try to do it. Hezbollah is an arm of the Ayatollah. The Houthis are a bunch of crazy people. And if we don't deal with that fundamental problem, you can't have stability. And that doesn't make me or you a warmonger. It makes us honest. The worst thing you can do is declare peace when forces of evil still exist.
Mm-hmm. You know, back in 1928, I tell the audience, Senator, you probably heard of this, the Kellogg-Briand Pact. We signed on to this, and that outlawed war. that outlawed war. Now, Senator, hold on. I want to ask you the question. How did that go? How did that work? 1928, the outlawed war.
I think they fell short. A noble effort, but nobody apparently agreed with them. They literally passed legislation to end war. Clearly, the Japanese didn't get the memo in December 41. Hitler didn't get the memo throughout the 30s. So this silly isolationist phase that we went through in the 30s, where Lindbergh's going over charming Hitler and, this is not our concern. I'll never send troops to a country that doesn't speak our language. All that stuff sounds good until it doesn't. And here's what I would say history proves to us. When you have forces organized around evil, religious dominance, the Germans wanted a master race. The Ayatollah wants a master religion. When you appease it, when you fail to confront it, you'll pay a heavy price. Trump has done a damn good job of putting Iran in a box. Killed Soleimani, took their nuclear program down, working with Israel. High marks there. He's got the Arabs on board in a way I've never seen, working with Israel. But there's still pieces of the puzzle. Yesterday was a wonderful day. I can't wait till the hostages get home. I hope phase 2 works. I don't trust Hamas further than I can throw them. Disarming is something we have to insist on, not kind of disarming, completely disarming. And Hamas has to be written out of the future of the Palestinian world, or we'll be right back where we started.
Yeah, no, you're quite right. Senator, if people want to help you, you're in a re-election effort there. Where do they go?
Say a prayer and send $5 or $10 to lindseygraham.com.
All right, Mr. Producer, let's flop that up there on my social sites. All right, you take care of yourself, Lindsey.
Thank you, Mark, for your voice in troubled times. It's consistent, it's firm, and you're spot on, my friend. Take care.
God bless you. I appreciate it very, very much. I mentioned this Kellogg-Briand Act. It was a treaty for the renunciation of war as an instrument of national policy. The authors were German, French, and American. And we signed on to it August 27, 1928. Most other states soon thereafter. It's named after its authors, U.S. Secretary of State Frank Kellogg and French Foreign Minister Aristide Briand. It basically outlawed war. And it didn't work for a minute. But it was cheered, it was celebrated. I'm not making a comparison, I'm just making a point. Now, what Lindsey's saying and what I'm saying is this phase 2 is very, very important. And we're going to want to take a very close look at it once we can get our hands on it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Our society works because of the freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. Everyday Americans should be able to speak openly and honestly about family and traditional values without retribution from the government. And that's a principle Pure Talk proudly supports. They sponsor my show, which allows me to stand strong behind the microphone every day and share the truth with you. If you want to support brands that defend freedom and pro-American values, I strongly encourage you to switch your wireless service to Pure Talk. You're going to get great 5G coverage on an extremely reliable and secure network, and with plans from just $25 a month, you'll save a ton of money. And Pure Talk also believes in creating American jobs and supporting America's small businesses. So if you're a small business owner, you can save even more while enjoying white glove service. Stand with the companies who share your values. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch to my favorite wireless company right now, Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/Levin. Make the switch, folks. Make it today. Reminder, I'll be on Fox on Sean Hannity's show, Hannity at 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope you'll join us. New Quinnipiac poll shows Zoran Mandami leading with 46% of likely voters. Cuomo trails with 33% now that Eric Adams is out, and Curtis Lee was 15%. Now, look, I'm a huge fan of Curtis. I'm friends with Curtis. But if you're at 15%, I mean, I'm not sure what you're hoping for. It's really up to him, not up to me, for him to decide what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. I'm not a big fan of Cuomo, for God's sakes. People know that. But we're dealing with a Marxist, Islamist, American-hating Jew hater in Mamdani. This is what we call a period of extremist. That's what it is. So Cuomo's at 33, Slee was at 15, that's 48. It would clearly be much, much tighter. And we had on the program of the weekend Mark Penn, Democrat pollster, but he's not a whack job. This guy's a very good man. He was with Clinton, he was with Koch, and he said, we're really going to have to rely on the Republicans to stop Mamdani. We're going to have to rely on the Republicans to stop Mamdani. And so we need to keep that in mind. And the people in New York need to keep that in mind. But this reminds me of all over the country when we used to have third-party libertarian candidates running, Mr. Producer. And you'd have these close races, and the Democrats would slip through because the libertarians would pick up a relative small percentage of the vote, but it always came out of the Republicans. In this case, it's going to come out of Cuomo. And Mamdani's counting on it. Mamdani's strongest backing comes from Democrats, Asian Americans, and younger voters. Cuomo's core support is among Jewish voters. Among Jewish voters. Yeah, because they're scared to hell about this guy. He's an Islamist. That's what he is. He loves Hamas. You know, he's tried to kind of put a little bit of frosting on top of it, tried to kind of adjust. It's like he hates the cops, but, you know, he's trying to kind of adjust that too. No, he is what he is. And can you imagine if he's elected? All he needs is 4 years. That's it. 4 years, and this guy's off to the races. And he won't be the only one. These democratic socialists, a.k.a. Marxist Islamists, they're for real. They're absolutely for real, and they need to be taken seriously. This is not a talking point. It is a crucial fact. All right. We have this guy, Trevor Noah, at Comedy Central. Trevor Noah is a slimeball. He's a lowlife, like most of those at Comedy Central. This guy, Oliver, they import these a-holes into our country. Because apparently there are not enough of them here. You know, Jon Stewart, Colbert, and the rest of them. Listen to this one. Cut 20, go.
Meanwhile, here, comedians are hitting themselves. Don't say anything about Charlie Kirk. I wasn't going to say anything about... Yeah, but don't say anything about Charlie. I wasn't going to say anything about Charlie Kirk, but don't. There's nothing funny about it. Oh, now you tested me. I mean, there's nothing funny about it? You can't say there's nothing funny about it. No, there's nothing fun. No, don't say that, because as a comedian, I'll be like, I'm sure there's something funny about it. The guy was shot while defending guns. Do you understand how... I'm not even writing that as a joke. As a human, you have to admit that is an incongruous, funny thing that happens. You are there, you're like on stage, and you're like, let me tell you why people should have guns. Wapa!
Think that's funny, folks? You think this punk is funny? Trevor Noah? Man's assassinated? I mean, these people are nuts. They're sick. Our society works because of the freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. Everyday Americans should be able to speak openly and honestly about family and traditional values without retribution from the government. And that's a principle Pure Talk proudly supports. They sponsor my show, which allows me to stand strong behind the microphone every day and share the truth with you. If you want to support brands that defend freedom and pro-American values, I strongly encourage you to switch your wireless service to Pure Talk. You're going to get great 5G coverage on an extremely reliable and secure network, and with plans from just $25 a month, you'll save a ton of money. And Pure Talk also believes in creating American jobs and supporting America's small businesses. So if you're a small business owner, you can save even more while enjoying white glove service. Stand with the companies who share your values, Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch to my favorite wireless company right now, Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/Levin. Make the switch, folks. Make it today.
Blasting conservative fire. The Mark Levin Show. Call in now at 877-381-3811.
Using our brains, that's what we do. We, you and me. Looking at things rationally and logically, trying to break them down. We don't have pom-poms here. We do celebrate wonderful things and so forth and so on, but we take a very close look at these things. Well, Letitia James has now been indicted. That's right. See, ladies and gentlemen, the allegation is she cheated on her mortgage applications. And the irony, of course, is she accused Donald Trump of that on a large scale with his properties, and of course he never did it. He never did it, and she apparently did. What now? Josh Christensen, writing at the New York Post, New York AG Letitia James indicted on federal bank fraud, false claims charges. Now, the Democrats call this retribution. I call it enforcing the rule of law. New York State Attorney General Letitia James was indicted today by a federal grand jury in Virginia on charges of bank fraud and making false claims to a financial institution that netted her nearly $19,000 in savings on a loan for a second home, according to the Department of Justice. The indictment was handed up in the Eastern District of Virginia, where former FBI Director James Comey was indicted on September 25 on charges of lying to Congress and obstruction of justice. Now, Lindsay Halligan, she's the acting U.S. attorney. They mock her. She's actually quite a smart young lady, a smart lawyer. But they mock her because they say she has no prosecutorial experience. As I informed you last night and reminded many of you, Robert Kennedy, as Attorney General of the United States in 1961, appointed by his brother, clearly nepotism, was 35 years old, and he had no experience ever in any state or federal court, civil or criminal. Just so you know. Now, Letitia James responded in a statement, "This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system." How so? He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding, all because I did my job as New York State Attorney General. First of all, you didn't do your job. You did a job, and it was outrageous, number one. Number two, you either cheated on your mortgage application or you didn't. That's black and white. That'll be simple. Just like Schiff. Be simple. She says the charges are baseless. The president's own public statements make clear his only goal is political retribution. You have an opportunity to defend yourself in court. Yeah. James, 66, bought the 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home in Norfolk, Virginia in August 2020 for roughly $137,000, most of which was financed with a $109,600 loan that prohibited it from being used as a rental investment property, which means if she had it as her primary home, she would have gotten a better interest rate and better terms. And so she obviously used it for other than her primary residence. Seems pretty cut and dry to me. That allowed her to, quote, obtain favorable loan terms not available for investment properties, they noted in the 5-page filing, saving her approximately almost $19,000 over the life of the loan. When a New York Post reporter visited the Norfolk home in April, neighbors said they've never seen James at the property. Oh, Letitia, you be in big trouble. Meanwhile, her income tax forms designated the home as a rental that brought in thousands of dollars in additional income. Oh, there's more evidence, Mr. Producer. So her income taxes, which she signed under penalty of perjury, will be used as a piece of major evidence that it wasn't her residence. Norfolk property records viewed earlier this year by the New York Post showed James granted power of attorney to her niece, Sharnice Thompson Hairston, on August 17, 2023, authorizing the purchase of the Virginia property, for which they secured a $219,000 $780 mortgage. Very busy as an attorney general. Thursday's indictment puts the timeline of the alleged bank fraud scheme from August 2020 to January 2024. The purpose of influencing the action of OVM Financial, a Fannie Mae-backed lender, upon an application for a loan. Latukas represented and affirmed in uniform residential loan applications and related documents that the Peroni property... Didn't Clinton have Peroni's disease or something like that, Mr. Producer? Anyway, that the Peroni property would be used as a secondary residence, when in truth and fact, as Latukas then knew, the property was intended and used as an investment property with no intended or actual personal occupancy or use by her. Federal housing regulator Bill Pulte referred James to the Justice Department in April, suggesting she'd committed crimes including wire fraud, mail fraud, bank fraud, false statements to a financial institution. What we're seeing today is nothing less than the weaponization of the Justice Department to push those who hold the powerful accountable. Democratic New York Governor Kathleen Hochul said in a statement. What a loser she is. What a loser she is. I'm looking here, seeing if there's anything else you need. Probably not. The Federal Housing Finance Agency head has also made similar accusations of mortgage fraud against Adam Schiff, lowlife, snake, for improperly claiming a home in Maryland was his primary residence. See how they cheat? They want, hey, you're not paying your fair share. And they're all cheating. Well, most of them. Well, a lot of them. Eric Siebert, who preceded Halligan as U.S. Attorney, resigned last month after declining to bring charges against Comey and James. Well, I'm glad he resigned. Good. And so it goes. We'll see how that goes, but that seems to me to be a pretty solid case just based on the information. What's your defense? What would your defense be? The defense lawyer has to figure out, has to game it out. So what would the defense be? Well, that's not a defense either. Nope. By the way, I wanted to point this out for the Neanderthal, fake MAGA, America-hating, Jew-hating influencers. President Trump is MAGA. President Trump decides what is MAGA. You see what he did to Iran. You see what he did to ISIS. You see what he's done with the Houthis. He's used military force on occasion, when necessary, as commander-in-chief to protect our country and work with our allies. I know that's considered verboten by these morons. But there he is with the president of Finland. And a reporter asked the question, what if Finland's attacked by Russia? What will the United States do? So I got to believe, pardon me, Bannon, who has this show called the Fraud Room. And I don't think he still paid back the old ladies who he shook down for money for a wall they never built. And No Pants Matt and Katarlson and, you know, the padded room crowd, they're going to be very upset by this. Very, very upset by what the president said. Cut 21, go.
You are buying icebreakers from Finland. Yeah. But what if Russia and Vladimir Putin attacks Finland? Would you defend Finland?
I would. Yes, I would. They're a member of NATO. I would. They're great people, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going to do that. Yeah. I think the chances of that are very, very small. But it's very interesting because you have a very big military relative to your size. You have a very powerful military, one of the best. And but certainly we will be there to help. Okay?
Thank you.
Mr. President. Okay, please.
Mr. President, thank you. We have a big border, as our president said. How would you exactly defend Finland? And thank you.
Say what?
How would you defend Finland?
vigorously.
Can I just add on that? We're very pleased with the fact that we have so much training going on with American soldiers right now, so they're getting experience from Arctic conditions, and we're integrating our militaries together, working not only through the DCA agreement, but other ways as well. We see that day to day in the work that we do, and it's working well.
Will Finland drag us into World War III, Mr. Producer? What do you think? This guy sounds like a Jew, doesn't he? Oh, he's trying to get America involved in their wars over there, Finland. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Our society works because of the freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. Everyday Americans should be able to speak openly and honestly about family and traditional values without retribution from the government. And that's a principle Pure Talk proudly supports. They sponsor my show, which allows me to stand strong behind the microphone every day and share the truth with you. If you want to support brands that defend freedom and pro-American values, I strongly encourage you to switch your wireless service to Pure Talk. You're going to get great 5G coverage on an extremely reliable and secure network, and with plans from just $25 a month, you'll save a ton of money. And Pure Talk also believes in creating American jobs and supporting America's small businesses. So if you're a small business owner, you can save even more while enjoying white glove service. Stand with the companies who share your values. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch to my favorite wireless company right now, Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/Levin. Make the switch, folks. Make it today. Let's continue. Antifa, remember them? Remember they don't exist. Remember the Democrats? It's just an idea. Just an idea. Well, according to the Washington Examiner, Antifa leaders are fleeing America as Trump cracks down on domestic terrorist networks. Oh, do tell. I thought it was just an idea. Mia Cathell writing, several high-profile Antifa leaders have fled the country or are actively making plans to abscond overseas. News of their escape comes after President Trump designated Antifa as a domestic terrorist threat and directed federal authorities to dismantle terrorism networks operating within the United States. Mark Bray, B-R-A-Y, a financier of transnational Antifa operations. Can you believe this? And Antifa's foremost thought leader in America. Yeah, make sure you fill that socks with $50. There's your thought leader. Announced he's fleeing to Europe, settling in Spain. Spain has a horrible radical left-wing government, under the pretext of safety concerns following negative media attention. And before his departure, Bray issued an apparent call to action, urging widespread militancy. Quote, only mass anti-fascism, legal or not, can save us, he declared in Blue Sky, a popular platform on the political left. Blue Sky? Shouldn't it be Red Sky? Bray, an assistant professor at Rutgers University. Wow. There he is, an assistant professor at Rutgers University. One of the bigwigs for Antifa. It's just an idea. Will continue teaching classes on terrorism and the history of anti-fascism remotely, despite a change.org petition, change.org, from students calling for his firing. I tell you, these colleges and universities, I'm telling you, they're poisoned to the core, except for a handful. And by a handful, I mean no more than the number of my fingers on my hand. Derisively dubbed Dr. Antifa by critics on campus, Bray openly supports far-left violence in his academic work. Bray's book, Antifa, the Anti-Fascist Handbook, is a how-to guide intended to serve as operational reference material for stamping out so-called fascism. Half of his handbook's proceeds are funneled to the funding arm of Antifa International, which financially supports hundreds of affiliates around the world, including accredited Antifa chapters in America, such as Atlanta Anti-Fascists and Central Oregon Anti-Fascist Action. Funny, anti-fascists. They're all fascist pigs. As a precaution, Antifa International has since shut down its donation infrastructure to protect our donors and recipients. The announcement mentioned relocating operations due to Trump's edict, suggesting that the global group's fundraising apparatus is based in the United States. This is a multinational, international, communist operation operating in the United States and elsewhere to overthrow our government. Violent, riotous bastards. And Trump's onto them. Trump's onto them. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
It's an honor to be here with the first Jewish president of the United States. And if he isn't, he should be.
That's December 2019 at the White House Hanukkah party. The president called me up from the back of the crowd. I didn't expect it, of course. And I came up to speak to him. Vice President Pence was there, Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, and several others. President of the United States, Donald Trump, has been absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I remember it came under attack for that, Mr. Producer. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But we don't care here. It's okay. We're always under attack. There's too many goons, thugs, and morons out there. It's okay. But I know I speak for many of you. It's okay. The first Jewish president. And he had a big smile on his face. So did I. I mean, I wasn't planning on doing that. It just happened. Don't forget, I'll be on Hannity, 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time. 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time. I look forward to you being there. Senate rejects efforts to curb Trump's power to target alleged drug boats. Now, why would they try to do that? Why would they try to do that? First of all, it's unconstitutional. You can't pass a law to curb the president's commander-in-chief powers. You can pass a law, a budget bill, to strip the executive branch of any funding for these activities, but you can't pass a law to change the Constitution. I don't care how many former federal prosecutors say otherwise. And the vote lost the Democrats and two Republicans, including Rand Paul and Murkowski. Two morons. Two morons. Rand Paul thinks he's Mr. Constitution, not our Constitution. And Murkowski's just mercurial and worse. She's a phony and a fraud. By the way, we have Medicaid. ABC News gets destroyed. Our friend at Right Scoop, Brian, after releasing bogus Medicaid spending study on illegals. ABC News released a bogus study. So here we have a media outlet that's desperately trying, you see, to carry the flag for the Democrats and undermine the president. And that's how they get in trouble like this. And they don't care. ABC News released a bogus study suggesting Medicaid spending on illegal immigrants in 2022 was so insignificant it doesn't matter. Emergency Medicaid for undocumented immigrants made up only 0.4% of total Medicaid spending in 2022, a new study finds. That's right. They were claiming that there was no Medicaid spending on illegals. Now they're saying, well, there's some, but it's so small, it's not important. But some online are pointing out what ABC put at the very bottom of their article, which is crucial, and I quote, the authors added that the study has limitations, including that 11 states did not report emergency Medicaid spending, and that the analysis did not account for other public spending on undocumented immigrants. So the states, as best as Brian at Right Scoop can tell, were Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, Minnesota, Michigan, Indiana, Maine, Vermont, and Connecticut. That's some pretty big limitation. But what others also are pointing out is, why go all the way back to 2022? There's much better data in 2023 and 2024. Yeah, and when you go back to that data, you find that 0.4% is a lie. Lies, darn lies, one poster put. There's a reason ABC went with a percentage rather than a dollar amount. From 2022, their figures 0.4 means we spent nearly $3.3 billion on health care for illegal aliens. Now that's 2022. Get the numbers from 2024. And why doesn't ABC News do that? Because you know they're monstrous. And this is what J.D. Vance says. Oh, look who's here, America. Come on in. My daughter, my granddaughter. I don't see my son-in-law and my grandson. What are they doing? Oh, there's my grandson. Came in from Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm talking to America, and I want you to know something, America. Laura, when's the last time I saw you guys? Months. Months. I hate that you are months away, effectively. But everybody looks great. I love you guys very, very much. And I will see you a little bit later, okay? Huh? Go Eagles. You know, the Eagles play tonight, and the Phillies are playing right now, so there's a lot going on. God bless you, sweetie. Now, my daughter Lauren, folks, my daughter Lauren was a Trump supporter before anybody else. Well, actually, my daughter Lauren and my brother-in-law, who unfortunately has passed, Joe, they were Trump from day one, as soon as he announced. In fact, they wanted him to announce. So my daughter Lauren and my brother-in-law Joe, they were early on. And my father was early on. He loved Ted Cruz and he loved Donald Trump. And he said, either one's fine by me. They're going to be fantastic. So there is that. So J.D. Vance has pointed out time and again, at Right Scoop they write, Biden directly flew in millions of illegals, put them on their parole program, giving them access to Medicaid. I'm pretty sure the study didn't count parolees. So the bottom line is ABC News lied. They misled, and they intended to. And they're not going to go back and get accurate numbers for 2023 and 2024, the teeth of the illegal immigration flood into our country. They're not going to do it, even though they should, because they don't care. It's like using the Hamas numbers. A disaster. They don't care either, and they use them anyway. All righty. Let's see here. And guess what? My wife and mother-in-law, they've been out of town. They're coming tomorrow. We're going to have a big party here. In fact, Asher, who's going to turn 8 years old, his birthday's coming up. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm very excited about all this. You know? Very excited about all this. It's just great. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
So you have Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats who've destroyed our healthcare system with Obamacare. It is a black money pit. It just keeps getting deeper and deeper. And that's the problem. Remember when Joe Biden said, it's a big effing deal. Remember that, America? No Republican voted for it. It was flawed from day one, from the website and the rest. The model, the structure is flawed. You get lousy health care coverage at an enormous price. And it's out of control now. It needs a massive input flow of money. So the Republicans say, we need to take a look at this. Let's get the continuing resolution passed. We got to get that in place so we have all our budget appropriations going through our committees and the debates and all the rest. That's how we have to analyze these things. And the Democrats decided for the first time in decades, no, we're going to use the CR. We're going to use the CR to pretend that the Republicans are shutting down the government to pretend that we're here fighting righteously for health care, a health care system they broke with Obamacare. And you're supposed to be persuaded that it's the fault of the Republicans and Donald Trump. Now, I have an entire section of my book on power on this. I believe it's chapter 4 on language. On language. On how regimes like the Democrat Party regime, totalitarians, tyrants, and Democrats, elected leading Democrats, use the English language to lie, to deceive, to manipulate. That's exactly what they're doing right now. They want $1.5 trillion in wasteful, fraudulent spending returned to the budget. It's a diabolical party. Diabolical. Here's Joe Kernan. Very good. CNN. Excuse me. God forbid. CNBC today. CNBC. Cut 13, go.
There was an election, and the Republicans were put in a position where they were able to pass the big, beautiful bill, or you call it the big, ugly bill. To then say, we don't like any of that, so we're going to shut down the government until you take back all the things that you duly passed through legislation. If Republicans had tried to do that to the Inflation Reduction Act or the any of the acts that Biden and that administration have passed, if they said we're going to shut down the government because we don't like any of those things you did, we're going to not pay our military, we're going to, not allow the government to reopen until you do what we want. After an election where the American people put Democrats in power, you'd be going crazy. You'd be going crazy about using a shutdown of the government with a continuing resolution to get what you want just because you don't like what the Republicans did. It's not how it works. It's bad. It's bad precedent, and it's just clear. And you're talking about the House. You've already passed this. The Senate is who we're talking about, and they have a bill which will reopen the government right now with 5 more Democrats.
What is bad precedent is the Republican refusal to engage in bipartisan negotiations. What is bad precedent is the Republicans embarking on a my way or the highway approach from the very beginning of this Congress. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Joe, you're exactly right.
All right, let's stop. So anybody who has a third grade knowledge of how the government works knows that a majority in the Senate's not enough. Right? You need at least 60 to overcome a filibuster. So the Democrats are filibustering or threatening to filibuster, and he says, well, the Republicans control the Senate. It just shows you what a diabolical, deceptive leftist this guy Hakeem Jeffries is. That shows you. And that's the way they work. Here's Chuck Schumer on the floor of the Senate today. Face down, no doubt. Cut 12, go.
Good Americans in your own state will suffer the most if the ACA premiums expire.
So this is Obamacare again. Their project, which doesn't do anything they said it would do, which didn't save health care, which didn't provide health care to everybody at a reasonable price. Lie on top of lie on top of lie. We had a caller last night who was excellent. He said, well, why don't we get rid of it? It's a good question. Why don't we? But when it comes to spending, debt, inflation, the Democrats don't give a damn. So now they're going to defend the people from the very program they concocted. That's out of control. Let me give you an example. Go.
Bankrupt. People will get sick. People will die. All because the speaker.
No, people are, it's a funny thing. Whenever you support the Republicans, people are going to die. Now, they don't care about what goes on in the streets when people are actually being shot and murdered and dying. They undermine the cops. They undermine the rule of law. Oh, when people are really dying, like they're murdered by illegal immigrants, and the President of the United States trying to track these people down, put them in prison, and or expel them from our country, they don't seem to care about those people dying, do they? When they had open borders and the drug cartels,
were sending fentanyl into this country and people were dying. They didn't seem to care about that, did they? Or the women sold into sex slavery, many of whom never return. Or the unaccompanied children that we can't find. Yeah, but they're very worried about people dying, don't you know? These are sick bastards, starting with Schumer. Right down the line. People are going to die if you don't spend another $1.5 trillion and further destroy this nation's finances, further destroy the value of a dollar. People are going to die. We're going to let in 20 million illegal aliens that take jobs from American citizens, that take the places of the American citizen in emergency rooms. People are going to die. Did they give a damn? Go ahead.
On vacation, rather than come to work and negotiate with Democrats to fix this health care crisis and end their
That's not
Trump.
what's going. That's not how this started. It had nothing to do with, quote unquote, the health care crisis, America. Chuck Schumer let it out of the bag. We don't have the audio, I don't believe, but he let it out of the bag when he said the longer this goes on, the better it is for the Democrats. Now, the truth is, the vast majority of you don't even feel this. That's the truth. You felt the pandemic, particularly in blue states and blue cities, when you lost your jobs, when they were shutting down businesses, when people lost their businesses. They didn't give a damn about that either. Did they? 83% of the government is open. Is open. This charade's been going on about 10 days now. And what Schumer wants to happen, what he wants to happen, is the FAA not get their pay, the military not get their pay. They're required to continue to work. That's what he wants to happen. This is all a sham. This is all a plot, a plan. This is all they've got. Because when it comes to the substantive policy issues, the American people reject the Democrats. We don't want boys and girls' bathrooms and vice versa. We want illegal aliens deported, especially the worst of them. We support the cops, whether local, state, or federal law enforcement. They do not. They do not. That is what we were up against. That's what we were up against. Here's the president at a cabinet meeting today about Jeffries and Schumer. Cut 10. Go.
Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and the congressional Democrats are holding the entire federal government hostage. I will tell you, a lot of Democrats want to get this thing open too. They do. They're calling us, and they just want to get it open. And all we're doing is saying, just play the same thing until we get it straight. And they don't know how to go about it. I mean, and the problem is we really don't know who the hell is leading the Democrats. You have this AOC. I don't know her at all, but I watched her the other day. She said, well, if they want, they could come to my office. That's not leadership, you know. The only one that challenged her actually was Nancy Pelosi, and Nancy's not looking too good. I don't know what happened to Nancy, but she's not looking great. But she was the only one, I give her credit, she was the only one that challenged her. But AOC said that they can come to her office and negotiate, the Republicans. And we're saying, oh, I didn't know she was in leadership. But she's taking Hakeem Jeffries' place, and Schumer's afraid that she's going to run.
Right. We'll be right back.
The voice of sanity in an insane world. The Mark Levin Show. Call in now at 877-381-3811.
I'll be on Hannity tonight, 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time, in just a little bitty time. All right, here's the full December 2019 at the White House. Hanukkah. I'm way in the back, minding my own business. President of the United States spots me. Now, 2019. Go.
We have a man that I have, by the way, great respect, Mark Levin. Where's Mark Levin? What a show. Where's Mark? Where is Mark? He's over here. Lee, send him up here, will you please? Mark, come on up. Come on up here. Mark, the great Mark Levin. What a show. You know, he had a very successful radio show. Who knew that face was going to work so well on television? #1 show. Come on, Mark, wherever you may be. Where are you? I saw him. Is that Mark? Come on, Mark. Get your way up. Make a path. Like we used to say in the military, make a path. Make a path. What a great guy. What a great show. So who thought this guy was going to be a television star, right? Hot as can be on radio. All of a sudden he tries the television thing, the #1 show. Mark, I don't know how. Come on, both of you come up here. Come on. Come on up, Mark. Yeah, come on the dais, see? He hasn't gotten used to being a star yet. He's so big. Right, Mark? Come on over.
It was a long walk.
And by the way, come here.
Had to get through the crowd.
Say a couple of words. Come on.
It's an honor to be here with the first Jewish president of the United States. And if he isn't, he should be. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for everything you have done for the Jewish people. I want to thank you for everything you've done for the Jewish people's ancestral homeland. You are going to be remembered there for 1,000 years. And I want to thank you for what you've done for the United States of America. And I want you to know that we will not leave our general on the battlefield without our support. Period. God bless you. Thank you.
There you go.
Fantastic guy. Thank you, Mark.
He and I have a very special relationship. We really do. I try not to take advantage of it in any respect. But he's just a fantastic guy. And he adores my wife, who, in the election before this one, she's such a smart lawyer. She took off for Philadelphia. I said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to see you in a few weeks. And she was involved in much of the theory and much of the strategizing and the two cases that actually went to the U.S. Supreme Court on the election. But they couldn't get enough of the justices to take up the case. Sam Alito wanted to take up the case, as did two other justices, but they couldn't get a fourth. And one of those involved, of course, the issue of whether the state Supreme Court had the authority to change the election laws of the legislature. When in fact the Constitution talks about the legislature. It's a very important case. Very important case. All right. Let's take some calls. We try to do this every program. Let's go to Dave, Phoenix, Arizona, the great KKNT. Go, go, go.
Thanks so much, Mark. Appreciate the
You
show.
got it.
What an
Thank
amazing turn of events. Only President Trump could turn this off, right? Because he is truly the disruptor in chief. He goes against the conventional wisdom. He doesn't care what Foggy Bottom says. He's going to do what he...
What an a-hole this guy was. Okay, we caught him. We always do. Not so clever. Let's go to Scott Prescott, Arizona, on the Levin app. How are you, Scott?
I'm fine, Mark. I hate to tell you, but it's Prescott, Arkansas, but that's all right.
You know what? You're right. I misread that. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm hoping it's not just a dream. You played earlier a quote from Cuomo saying, I am the last person Trump wants as mayor of New York. No.
I didn't. Did I play that, Mr. Producer? What's he talking about? All right. Thanks for your call, too. I never said that. I never played that. I don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, that's 2 strikes. One more, and then we're moving on from the calls. Let us try this. Mark, Chico, California, XM Satellite. Mark, go right ahead. Save the call screen. Go ahead.
Mr. Levin, kudos to you and your family.
Thank you.
And your support of Israel and Netanyahu. But today reading the Examiner, the National Review, there's a good number of people that believe the GOP is abdicating on this pandemic extension, including Byron York and Jim Garrity. What's your take on whether the GOP is going to fold?
I'm not even understanding it. They say they're abdicating. What are they saying?
Byron York today said.
Yeah, I got the names. What are they saying? What is it substantively that they're saying?
The GOP is going to fold, and the Democrats are going to prevail on the shutdown, and those Obamacare subsidies are going to be.
Here's the thing. I'm not a mind reader. I'm not a Nostradamus. They say he's going to fold. I haven't seen him fold. I've heard him talking about shutting down parts of the government if this doesn't stop soon. So it's kind of hard for me to comment on people who are speculating. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I understand that this government shutdown is a work in progress. It's just interesting to see people on the right that are saying that maybe the GOP is not navigating this as effectively as they should, and maybe they're going to fold. What about Josh Hawley? I mean, he talks a big game. But
all right, thanks for your call. Well, these guys just what's happening, Mr. Producer? What about Josh Hawley and Jim and Byron? What are we going to do? Throw out 10? Well, what about them? This isn't. Let me just a little bit of training here. When you call a radio show, if you have substantive points, that's how you engage. You don't have to agree. You don't have to disagree. But what about this guy? What about this guy? I don't even know what he's talking about. Then they're speculating. And I say, well, why would I comment on two guys speculating? Then what about Josh Hawley, a senator? Well, what about him? What did he say? I don't even know what he said. I still don't know what he said. Let me tell you Mark's position if we'd gotten into this in a substantive way. They shouldn't fold. They shouldn't negotiate. If they want to talk about health care, then do it in a few months. You don't do it in the course of the continuing resolution. I don't know what Hawley's position is. I don't know what anybody else's position is. But if their position is to fold, it's pathetic. When the going gets tough, you stand firm. I've been through in my lifetime over 21 government shutdowns that weren't even really government shutdowns. And while they say the Republicans always take the blame, Ronald Reagan won a massive landslide after several so-called government shutdowns when Ted Cruz led a filibuster against Obamacare, ironically, of all things. And the government was, quote-unquote, shut down for almost 3 weeks. He was attacked by the rhinos. All the quislings, all the weak ones, they ran and they attacked him. The Wall Street Journal editorial page attacked him. Yes, National Review attacked him. And he stood as firm as he could as the weak middle started to buckle, the weak underbelly. My position is simple. They did this. They are trying to win the PR game. Confront them and fight them. Yes, we have a problem with health care. Yes, it's because of Obamacare. That's because of Obama and Biden and the Democrats, since no Republicans supported it. Stick with the Speaker of the House. He knows what the hell he's doing. That's my advice. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
It's been quite a day. It's been quite a week, wouldn't you say? And, of course, there's more to come during the course of this week and on Monday and Tuesday when the hostages are released. And the barbarians, what's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to Hamas? This is critical. If there's to be a lasting peace, they can never rise again. And also, what about Hezbollah and Iran? You know, it's a tough neighborhood. It's a tough neighborhood. President Trump won't be president forever. He's got 3 years and 3 months left. And he's uniquely by character and mindset, he's uniquely qualified to deal with things like this. Every Republican is not. None of the leading Democrats are. None of them. I hope you will set your DVR for Saturday and Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. I know there's a lot of sports. There's a lot of football, baseball going on. So go ahead and set your DVR tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. Saturday night, Fox. 8 p.m. Eastern, Sunday night, Fox, for Life, Liberty, and Levin. This Saturday, we're going to have the ambassador from Israel to the United States, Ambassador Leiter, who lost his eldest son. Within a few weeks, the first major battle with Gaza, with the Hamas terrorists. His son, who had 6 children. See, the people in that government, they really have flesh and blood in these fights. We're going to have him, and we're going to have Senator Ron Johnson and try and get back to the bottom of this FBI stuff and the monitoring of senators. And Sunday night, a blockbuster show, we're going to have Eric Trump, who hasn't been on the program in a long time, and Peter Schweitzer, who's fantastic. So Schweitzer and Trump, Eric Trump, on Sunday night. So set your DVR. That way you won't forget. If you're doing other things, you're going somewhere, you're watching something else, you won't miss us. We produce these shows for you. I do. And as long as you're interested in it, I'll keep doing it. As long as you're interested in it, I'll keep doing it. And I think you are. Apparently, at the cabinet meeting, the meeting before the public part of the meeting, the cabinet gave President Trump a standing ovation that lasted about 2 minutes for his accomplishments in trying to bring peace to the Middle East. I mean, I've told you before, I think this is the best cabinet in modern history, certainly one of them. You've got a lot of young cabinet members. You've got a lot of cabinet members who think outside the box, who are very motivated, who love what they do. And I think they have served us very, very well. When they go up on Capitol Hill and they're grilled by these saboteurs on the left, these Democrats, each and every one of them stands up to them with class and gives better than they take. Give better than they take. That's very important, you know. And if there are weak feet, weak legs, weak stomachs in this battle with the Democrats, I'm going to call them out. I will call them out. So we'll see. And if you know of any, call me, but be specific. Don't just throw names around because I don't know what that means. There's an excellent piece in National Review by our friend Philip Klein. Excellent piece. I want to suggest you take a look at it. Israel's many victories. He says, barring some last-minute surprise, all indications are that the war that Hamas launched against Israel will be coming to an end within days. And he says it would be far too premature to declare this a total victory for Israel. After all, Hamas still exists in some capacity. I think that's correct, by the way. You know, reality. Hamas still exists in some capacity, despite the talk about its potential disarmament and plan for a transitional international authority in Gaza. And this is what I'm curious about, exactly how is this going to work? What's the plan? And I think that's still under consideration and negotiation, actually. As far as I know, I think the most brilliant part about this Trump peace plan is the way it was broken into 2 phases. The first phase is the hostages out all at once, no delay, Monday or Tuesday, and then everything follows from that. Because if Hamas violates the Trump peace deal, hopefully the hostages will already be out and the Israelis will be able to finish the job if they're not prevented from finishing the job. All right, folks, I'm going to speed over to this
studio. I'll see you in 20 minutes on Fox, on Hannity. We salute our armed forces, the police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, you, the American people, and our great President of the United States. See you tomorrow. Well, see you tonight, 20 minutes on Fox.